After putting their downloads back up recently, I've been enjoying Open Fortress again after a while of not playing it much, and it is so good. Raw, frenetic arena shooter action. Open Fortress has both my favorite elements from free-for-all deathmatch games in general and TF2. So, I want to talk about that. So, first for some background. I've been playing TF2 for over a decade easily. It's one of my favorite games of all time, if not my number one, given the position swaps around pretty often. I can and will make a video dedicated to Team Fortress 2 at some point, so I'll try to keep my words about it here brief. However, there are two specific aspects of it that are really relevant to Open Fortress. Most notably, which would be the gunplay and movement from TF2, which Open Fortress translated and kept the best aspects of. Open Fortress's movement isn't one-to-one with TF2, however, it's very similar feeling. And I just mean walking around, jumping, just the general stuff. Because I feel like I need to advertise and remind everyone that just movement in the Source engine feels extremely good. Your inertia, gravity, speed, it just feels right. And Open Fortress keeps all of this. I think a lot of people tend to just understate how satisfying the mere act of walking can be in games like these. But Open Fortress does offer another very important movement option. Bunny hopping or strafe jumping, whatever you want to call it, is an extremely fun and skill-testing movement option that expands your opportunities by so much. I'm honestly not even very good at it, all things considered. In fact, I'd argue I'm quite bad at it. But I still find myself flying around the maps at top speeds, just hopping around. And I think what makes especially Open Fortress's b-hopping so elegant is that there's an extremely low barrier to entry for utilizing it. In some games you have to manually time each jump, which can be very difficult, but in most Open Fortress servers, you can just hold spacebar and they'll do the timing for you. And at that point it comes down to managing your strafing and just position. Despite the low skill floor, however, bunny hopping still has an extremely high skill ceiling. This is because while the mere act of starting to bunny hop is easy, doing it consistently and finding a lot of strategic value in it can take quite a lot of practice. I think most notably is just understanding routes and such, as there are plenty of maps in the game with only ever more getting added, and you can't just mindlessly hop around them on first sight unless you've got a really strong sense for it. You can dedicate a lot of time to just properly figuring out your routes on maps and things like that. Furthermore, you can start to figure out how weapons benefit from your added speed, which is maybe where I should lead into the gunplay. Open Fortress has an absolutely incredible lineup of weapons. It's very well balanced and creates a really fun sandbox to play with. Each and every weapon feels useful, and I'm not disappointed to pick up anything. Furthermore, because you can hold on to as many weapons as you find, you'll run into really fun situations of swapping weapon to weapon as opposed to reloading, or to help adjust to your ever-changing combat situation. And on top of the weapons feeling all uniquely useful from a balance perspective, they're also all just satisfying to use. Giving people with the super shotgun, headshotting with the railgun, air shotting with the rocket launcher, I really can't overstate just how good all these weapons feel. The feel of weapons in games can be really hard to quantify or describe. It's comprised of just so many factors: sound design, visual design, effectiveness, and execution. All of these culminate together into leading to a satisfying weapon. And I think I should go down the list to properly explain what I mean. So, in sound design, I don't think I have to do too much explanation. It's how the weapons sound, for example, when they fire. I personally like my guns in games to sound chunky with some weight to them, and Open Fortress provides that impact and weight I'm looking for. Just listen to some of these. The visual design is also relatively self-explanatory. It's how the weapons or aspects associated with the weapons look. This could include animations, the models, the effects. The guns in Open Fortress all look pristine, matching into the art style amazingly. And furthermore, the first-person animations are all very good. The reload animations feel appropriate for all of them while still having plenty of personality. The effects are, well, just as great. On a visual front, I think Open Fortress is one of my favorite games. Admittedly, it's using TF2's base art style, but it adapts the new content to it expertly. In terms of effectiveness, I suppose I just mean how effective a weapon is in regards to numbers. Something could have maybe the best animations and sound effects in the world, but if it does no damage or is useless, what's the point? Weapons in Open Fortress all have their own niche, and they all feel extremely effective, which also allows player preference to come into play. This is because if the weapons are universally balanced in a way that at least feels fair, you can start to develop a liking towards specific ones while not feeling at a disadvantage. If I prefer to use the rocket launcher over the pill launcher, that's okay. The two weapons are both very effective at blowing the other guy up, but they do it in ways that are just different enough that they feel distinct. This open design space to allow for player preference, in turn, allows for player expression in gameplay. And I think games that allow for high amounts of player expression are top tier, as it's a very hard thing to properly implement in a game. An example of this is, as I mentioned, maybe someone who always leans towards the rocket launcher, and they start to develop a personality almost as like the rocket launcher guy. I think things like this are really cool. TF2 had it a lot with people who dedicated themselves to certain classes and even further certain subclasses. But yet even further, I think Open Fortress does this in a strong way due to the fact that while there is so much room for player expression and preference, there's also a sense of being forced into expanding your horizons. This is because in the primary game mode of Deathmatch, you can only start with the pistol and crowbar, so you have to go around and pick up any other weapons. Of course, you can memorize spawn points around the map and always book it towards your favorite weapon. However, you'll run into situations where maybe you can't get your primary weapon of choice. This leads to further expression of how do I handle this situation. Some players will run away or handle it with what they have, deciding what weapon to use from their current inventory. All of these choices and decisions are really cool to me, because no two players will handle them the same. There are so many doors opened in Open Fortress, fitting the name. The way the game is designed is so freeing compared to many out there. There's nothing really railroading a player into doing anything a certain way. It's all small, built-in puzzles to solve, with a trillion solutions to every problem. Open Fortress constantly nurtures this in pretty much every avenue it can. Points regarding the feel of weapons. Let's cover my final one in execution. With execution, I'm talking about how difficult or different a weapon may be to utilize. For some weapons, their innate difficulty, like with the railgun, leads to them feeling extra satisfying, as it always feels good to land a clutch headshot. But otherwise, some weapons feel extra good because of their lower level of execution. Like the minigun, where it's as easy as point and shoot, but it's like you're going on a power trip, which furthermore, the minigun is almost a game of resource management instead of more mechanical skill. As it chews through its ammo so fast, you have to chain kills together just to keep topping it off. All of these aspects come together to form a system of guns that feel satisfying to use while providing enough mechanical depth that there's enough substance to chew on. This is what creates the top-tier gunplay that Open Fortress provides. And yes, that was a lot of information regarding what defines good-feeling weapons. But I think that's just how deep the concept runs. I could just easily brush it off as gun feels good to shoot, because it can be that simple, but overanalyzing it and looking at the intricate depth is both fun and it serves useful. Knowing why something feels good can be important after all. Back to the grand topic at hand that is Open Fortress owns. Let me circle back to player expression because I went pretty in depth on it. However, I think it's actually the core best aspect of Open Fortress. As I mentioned before, the name is extremely fitting for the game because Open Fortress is just so open. Despite being a game with maps that are almost constricting in their design and by all means isn't open world at all, it provides so much freedom in how you play it. A lot of games today, to me at least, are designed in a very rigid way, with the intent that you are meant to do X thing Y way. and there's no real arguments to that. This isn't universal, of course, but I think things in general have started to get really railroady. There's decisions to be made, but you aren't really making choices, which feels weird to say, but just go with it. Open Fortress defies this though. There is no right way to do anything in it. How you do things, as long as you get the kill, that's the right way in my eyes. If you're fragging, you're doing it right. Who cares if you're using a weapon the way it's intended? The way things are designed is so open that it's up to the player to figure out how they want to use things. For example, with the super shotgun, some players may use it for ambushing, jumping around corners and blasting folks. Others may use it as an opener. You blast someone, then switch to your sidearm to finish them off. While others may use it as their de facto weapon and just bunny hop around everywhere and meat shot any unfortunate soul who gets close enough. The way a player can decide to use their tools is what makes Open Fortress so special to me. And I've hammered in this point a lot because I just think it's that important. TF2 was a game that also allowed this. Anyone who's played it can surely tell you that. But I think due to the format that Open Fortress is primarily played in, it manages to lean into this so much more than TF2 really can. The possibilities feel truly endless. As a final example, I need to make a note of the taunt kill on the sidearm. This move is so sick. The way the Merc sidesteps actually moves your hitbox in a way that's really useful for properly taunt killing people. And this ties into the open nature of the game. As you've probably seen in this video before, but I'll show it again, I actually used this taunt kill as a method to outsmart an opponent. I knew in this situation that I would lose that engagement if I fought it normally, so I made the quick decision to try to get them around the corner, and it totally worked, which is just another perfect example of player expression. There was nothing in the game that told me to go for that besides just my brain, which, if that's not the ultimate example of what I'm trying to describe, I don't know what is. I also want to talk about the music, because the music goes off. The many people who have had a hand in the soundtrack have such a great understanding of the music in TF2 and what defines its sound. All of the tracks that I've heard in Open Fortress match them to a T and feel really fitting for their respective maps. One of my favorites is Drawn and Quartered, which is the theme of the map Thames. Utilizing that classic motif but adapting it to the fast-paced energetic tune that matches the overarching aesthetic of the game. Every song that's been done for Open Fortress really feels like it would fit right into base TF2, and anyone who knows the music from TF2 knows that is no small praise. And lastly, given it's a game related to TF2, I feel an obligation to cover Open Fortress's customization features, which I really enjoy. The modular outfits that you can design for your Merc allow for so many different tones and feels while all still feeling at least relatively fitting to the game. I think customization like this is honestly really important, and the devs making it so free and open is just such a breath of fresh air after so many games just lock it into skins with no modular elements at all. Plus, I can make my Merc the exact hex color of blue that Hatsune Miku uses, so I'm a real winner. Oh, also, before I finish this video, I've yet to mention that Open Fortress is an entirely fan-made mod. By all means, it's so highly produced that it's easy to forget that, so the fact that it is a mod that's entirely community-driven is frankly unbelievable. I have to give everyone involved with it such huge props for making something so highly produced and professional. I can't give this game enough praise, and I'll link the website below so you can grab it yourself. Thank you for watching yet another video of mine, and happy fragging out there.